Roll. Dr. Armour. Here. Phyllis Starkey.
Here.
Misty Pritt.
Here.
Tom Ratliff. All right, we will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Armour.
Pledge allegiance
To
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda, special recognitions. Adam Osborne, Mr. Blankenship.
I'd like to have Mrs. Butcher, and she's got a couple of remarks, and then we're going to get somebody special this evening.
Well, it's certainly my pleasure to bring good news, and that is that our high school was selected to present our model rocketry program at the International Society for Technology Education. It's an international conference with attendance being right around 18,000 every year. This year it's in San Antonio, Texas. Our chance of getting in was about 25%. So our presentation, I think, was, the scrutiny is very, very tight, and it's very, very competitive, and we are very, very fortunate that we had a good proposal and that it was deemed to be worthy for presentation on an international platform. What really the impetus of that started maybe about 2 years ago when Mr. Osborne had grandiose ideas of starting model rocketry. And as a, I think we started actually in physics class, and had Roy Lee Cook, one of the original 5 rocket boys on our campus, when we started launching our rockets, and he was used as a great source and provided some information and some guidance to students. And our students really took off with that, so to speak, and so did Mr. Osborne. And since that time, it has grown. Mr. Osborne collaborated with Mr. Reed in our office, who is our office science geek, and works with Mr. Osborne in an after-school situation collaborative that we have with the middle school that we had written a small grant for. But our model rocketry program, I'm very, very proud of, and Mr. Osborne and Mr. Reed for their work that they have done. And they will give you an overview of what the presentation will be.
This is a rock.
Being a tech conference, one of the large components of our presentation are the technical aspects of what we do in our curriculum to facilitate our rocketry program. And one thing that we're going to spend the majority of our time during our workshop teaching other teachers is to show teachers how to use the engineering software that our students use. So in this software that we have, students can build a simulated rocket. They could put together all the different components, build it virtually, and then load whatever motor they want into the virtual rocket. And let's hope the computer doesn't crash on me. And then it actually shows the students what their rocket would perform like virtually, so they could launch it before they even build it. They build their rocket to meet the component or the different criteria that they have for our contests that we enter into and compete with other schools for different prizes. They build that to whatever criteria we set, and once they reach that in this program, then they know what parts they need to build and what shape they should be, and then they turn something virtual that they crafted in the software into a real functioning rocket. And they tested it before they even build it, so they know whether or not it's safe to launch, whether it will meet the criteria. And this engineering skill set of build, test, design, repeat, all this, that's what we're going to be showing in ISTE in a nutshell.
We're going to be talking about, again, using the different types of software that we have.
and that it's available to them and they can download and hopefully get them to implement these types of programs in their schools where they can go from taking something virtually to actually having a tangible, something that they can show and let the kids be proud of the fact that they've been able to actually compete in some national competitions and such.
Last year, we were able to make it to the national finals for our rocketry program. Didn't do as successful there as we wanted to, but because of making it to that level, that gave some credence to what we're doing. That was one thing that allowed us to really present a strong presentation for the ISTE conference. Another thing that we're going to do is show them some different curriculum that different projects they can add just to any part of their curriculum, physics, earth science, different science
Math,
projects.
computers.
Yeah, computer science. And one of the projects that we did here that very few schools in the nation are doing was our weather balloon project last year. And it happened at the end of the school year, so we didn't really get to do a lot of publicity with it. But we sent probes that collected weather data and took video of the entire 6-hour flight up into almost outer space. It doesn't quite leave the atmosphere. But this is a photo from the capsule that our students built and designed here at our school and sent off into near space. And you can see the Earth curving, the clouds, and how it just gets darker up in the space. And we're going to show them how they can do similar projects in their own school.
And the fact that we're one of the few, there are a few, but not very many of high school students who are actually doing this kind of a project and collecting data. Lots of people are sending up probes that take video or take pictures. We actually collected barometric pressure, temperature, wind speed, all these
Humidity.
different types of things. We then took that data and distributed to like Rick Kinder in the math department,
Ms.
Mrs. Chapman for the computer. So they did all these different projects that were related to that. Hopefully this year, one of the things we're going to do is to send up some seeds and then disperse the seeds amongst the elementary schools for the next year, so that we can carry it out and let it just trickle down, so that they can get. Mr. Osborne's been doing some presentations in the elementary schools about the rocketry. We're also going to incorporate those types of things so that they can have a complete tie-in effect or tie-in to the lower level. So when they get up to the high school, they'll be happy to join up with our rocketry program, and then hopefully go on, because we have some collaborations with
We're working on a collaboration, it's not quite set yet, but with WVU, to where their aerospace program, they may be coming to our school to start recruiting some of our students for their program, so that students can get a degree from WVU in aerospace, because we do have such a strong aerospace program at the high school level, that some of the principles we're teaching here would transfer over to the skill sets that they would need at that collegiate level. But that's still like in the work, we haven't ironed out everything. But we would like to eventually build a collaboration where some of our classes may be dual credit for WVU, where they take some of our rocketry designated classes, and then that would transfer up into the WVU rocketry program up there. But that's future vision, like where we're wanting to take this.
And, Mrs. Butcher was making a comment too about how it was very competitive at 25%. We have to thank her for her part in it too, because she was our wordsmith. We threw a bunch of verbal vomit on a page, and then she helped us to refine it to the point where it was acceptable to them.
And sometimes we get a little jargony, we understand what we're talking about, and she was able to reword some of our jargon into common vernacular where people would understand what we're actually trying to do.
And we also are somewhat tangential, because we're like, yeah, and then we can do this, and then we can do that, and she kind of keeps us focused on it, and so we thank her for that.
And we wrote her into the project as well from an administrator point of view. She's going to come into our conference presentation and talk to teachers about how the administrator...
Expensive you are.
Yes.
She refers to us as high maintenance. So.
Funding sources and how to incorporate this into your curriculum without having to, make space for it. It really does fit into most of the content standards that we have to teach for certain classes anyways. And instead of just teaching it abstractly, students get a hands-on, version of the same content.
Why don't you touch on your collaboration with Mrs. Bell and October
Oh, yes.
Sky
Oh, yeah,
And Miss Gearhart.
and
Yeah.
Ms. Gearhart?
another reason why we were accepted is because we've been doing a lot of cross-curricular collaboration. That's a tongue twister. But Mrs. Bell's honors English class and my physics class went over October Skies together, the book. And her students would pose questions from the book that were technical that they may not understand because the book doesn't really explain it. And my students would read those passages, and then from our physics understanding, they would try to write an explanation for her class of to what scientifically those different passages meant and how that tied into what the author was talking about. And then Mrs. Gearhart, with her 21st century history class, we did a Cold War museum, and the remnants of it are still up in our little hallway, but her classes focused on the geopolitical aspect of the Cold War, and my physics class focused on the space race and the technological advances needed in order to go to the moon. And our two classes brought that together, and it really showed how history affects science and science affects history. And that was a wonderful collaboration.
And that was an excellent museum. It was wonderful, very well done.
And as part of, we haven't gotten it yet, but I have secured a 20-foot model of a Titan I rocket that we're hopefully going to put out front. It's scale perfect. I mean, so it's in North Carolina. I have to get it here, but after we get it here, well, that will be part of our what shall we call it? Our banner for our academy, yes, our rocketry academy. So good things are happening. Have any questions?
No, but I have a comment. This is what I like most about being a board member. I don't get to come around and find out what the kids are doing. And I really appreciate you bringing people in to tell us what's going on.
Thank you.
It's very, very nice, and we really appreciate that.
We have a lot of good things going on at this school that I think the community, they just don't know about it, and I think we need to be a little more vocal about it, because this is a great school. We really do have
As
a
I
lot.
said, I keep up with what you're doing, but I have to do it through the Free Press, and
Mhm.
through places like that.
Mhm.
But it's nice to hear from you, at least once a year, like I get to hear from you.
Well, it's that to tell you and show you, what we're doing here and how we all have a part in that. So.
And I'm glad you're helping.
I'm glad to be here too.
How many kids are actually involved in this program right here, and not with all the collaboration we have with?
Just specifically the
Yeah.
rocketry.
Mhm.
We are doing a 7th and 8th grade model rocketry after-school program that would include anywhere from 5 to 12 middle school students,
Depending on the day.
depending on the day and the different activities that they're competing with. Then my Physics 1 class, fall semester, usually has about 20 students, and as part of our curriculum, that's part of our class. Now, second semester, they can choose to continue with that, but, and a lot of them have decided to take a Physics 2, which we've never really fully offered before, and this next semester, we have an actual period blocked out for that, and that is because of the interest in the rocketry, and that will just continue forward. There will be some drop-off from first semester to second semester just because not everyone enjoys rocket science, which that's one reason why it's good to try a little bit of everything in high school before going to college. You find out what you're good at and what you like and what you don't. I suspect that the majority of students in that group of 20 will continue with it. If they don't take the class, they can come to that after-school program and still be a part of the rocketry group.
And then we had with this, there were about six or
This
eight
was a
students.
small group of students, about 6. It was kind of like a module project that they were interested in, and we worked
Now,
out.
in the balloon, how far, did it go clear to Tucker County or something?
It went beyond Tucker County.
It went up near Mount Storm
Mount Storm.
in the Panhandle, Eastern Panhandle. It actually clipped the corner of Maryland, and then I was
came
like, I
back.
hope this doesn't go to the ocean. That's what I was.
We were watching, and I remember, because we announced all afternoon where the balloon was, we announced that we kept track, there was a GPS locator that was placed in it that we could follow it. After it was over 60,000 feet, we couldn't, it blanked out after 60,000 feet because of military clearance, they wouldn't let you, then it came back down. And when it came back down, it was in Maryland. And I remember walking down to his room and I said, "Is this thing in Maryland?" He says, "Yeah." I'm like,
Because we
"Oh."
had to drive and go get that.
Yeah.
We were like, where's this thing going to be?
And
We met some interesting people along the way.
yes, we met a rather
It was
inebriated,
deliverance.
a rather inebriated gentleman whose property it was on, and it was quite fun. It's a long story, but it was fun. And the kids, I really think, I remember the kids' expressions when they actually saw the video for the first time. They were the look on their face, and they were. I mean, I was amazed to see that we did this. This is something that it was just something we're very proud of. So.
And we plan to do this again sometime in May. May is because it's good weather, and we have more daylight to actually go search for the probe once it lands. And we can't do it early in the year because the students haven't developed their skill set and the knowledge base in order to be able to do something like this. So sometime this May, expect us to launch another one.
And because it was right at dark, right about 8 o'clock when we finally found it. And so we've learned a few things from our last attempt to this attempt that we're going to incorporate in this new trial. And so it's just good fun.
Well, I know it's a cliche, but space is truly the new frontier. And I'm fascinated with what the Mars rover is doing and what we're seeing through the Hubble telescope. It absolutely, I'd like to be around another 1,000 years to see where that goes. And I think that it's just a wonderful time to be alive and to explore outer space. And I think you're setting students in the right direction.
Yeah, I feel like we are. And this is not our first time presenting at ISTE. This will be Mr. Osborne's second time. He presented at the ISTE conference in Philadelphia, and we had two presentations. That was year before last. Mr. Osborne did a
Model class. Right?
a model class, and then we had a presentation with Mrs. Cunningham, Louine Cunningham, on the Jason project. So, it's very competitive for us to get into that, but I knew that, based on my first trip to ISTE, that it was something that we could definitely do. And I think that this has risen to a different level because this is a 3-hour class that we will be teaching. And those are very, very competitive, very, very competitive. So I'm very proud of our team and what they've done.
I think also,
Well,
I think it's,
Thank you.
we should give all the student body the incentive that if they work hard at something, they can achieve something on a national
Right.
level.
Mhm.
It may not be in Rockford, but who knows what it could be.
Exactly.
Right.
right.
That just because you're from a small county in West Virginia doesn't mean that you can't compete.
No, and I think we've demonstrated that we competed
Yeah.
on a variety of levels. And, our team took first place in rocketry building at TARC last year. But we were the only school in West Virginia to send a team to Team America Rocketry Challenge. And, unfortunately, it was the same weekend as prom, but fortunately, our kids were making good decisions. And we made sure that those kids got there.
I have noticed before I got into this, I looked at the participation rate in the Team America Rocketry Challenge from West Virginia. And there'd be 1 to 2 to 3 schools. And then we got involved, and because of other schools in our region who have heard about it, they were interested and they've started. So every year since we've been involved, it's doubled. There are now 28 teams from West Virginia competing. And part of it's because they see that it is a successful program that they can incorporate in a West Virginia school system. And part of that's Todd Ensign from NASA, who we collaborate with. He's kind of the evangelist for this type of program. But he and I have collaborated and have told other schools in the region that this is a great program and they need to get involved. So.
And we actually have some students who are applying for the TARC scholarships this year that are only permitted to apply for those scholarships if they participated in the TARC program.
So that's another avenue of
yeah, of funding.
revenue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be sure to return again.
We will. Hopefully, we'll this year if we do our balloon launch a little earlier, maybe we'll
Then you can come back and
and
talk.
show you a nice little video
Yeah.
of what we have.
Unless it, of course, lands on the White House lawn, and then that will cause a whole new series of. You'll definitely hear about that as
We
well.
don't know yet.
I don't know who this fellow is.
We never seen him before.
You know, but you should honestly, the video that they brought back in retrieving the probes is worth maybe inclusion in America's Funniest Videos, because there are segments of that are just
It was
priceless.
edited for content based.
Especially
With the gentleman that we
The
met.
inebriated farmer
Sure there wasn't much
with the
to
big
do,
dog.
you just hadn't passed the border.
Yeah.
we were in West. Yeah, we were in West Virginia. It was,
Unfortunately.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nation.
Thank you very
Mrs.
much.
Butcher.
I can hear that person back. That's, those gentlemen and Ms. Butch need to be commended. That, the project-based learning is one of the things that we've got to do to change education and make it interesting for kids. When you need to do project-based learning, I think you do it cross-curriculum. That's interesting. I mean, that's really interesting for students. And those are the kind of things we need to be doing, and they're just haven't been doing it outstanding.
And it can be done in creative writing or any number of areas.
Yes, it can.
And I think all subjects need to continue to cross like that, because that strengthens writing, reading, math skills. If you can
Absolutely.
cross the curriculum, you're strengthening every subject area.
Just because you're a math teacher doesn't mean you don't teach spelling.
All right, item 4, board reports. Mrs. Starkey, Gilmer Career Center.
December 18th meeting, Career Center. Our president did open the meeting. We're all glad to see him. He had been here for a while. The reports in the meeting, we did have several contacts of the natural resource teacher. Mr. Stern is still trying to find that teacher, but he's not having too much success, but he keeps on trying. And he thinks maybe he has someone that is ready to go, hopefully. Our recently hired network and computer person, Mr. McCormick, got state approval. His problem was that he was from out of country and had to get into and get okay from the State Department, and the State Department did okay, and he started January 2nd. During my last visit of the tech center, I was approached by the computer repair substitute. He was telling me that the computers at the Career Center was out of date, and they needed some of the later models to practice repair, which Mr. Ramazan might say that's true. You do the latest ones. I asked Mr. Blankenship at that time about us taking the ones that RISA said that could not be repaired up here, or they needed a new one to replace it, and asked them if they could not give those to the Career Center instead of leaving up here in a wardrobe someplace that the kids needed to use them to learn how to repair the later models instead of the others. In personnel, Colin Hartshorn was hired as the clinic work-based bus group driver for $10 a trip. All of us know Mr. Hartshorn, and he does an excellent job. He also aids the school in many ways down there. We're very lucky to have him. The worksheet-based list was presented from both Gilmer and Calhoun, and it was approved by the council.
So if any of you all know of anybody in Gilmer County that would like Mr. Ramazan or the Democrat or any place, that would like to work under the work-based program with the students of the Career Center, please call Mr. Stern, and he'd be glad to hear from you and get you right away on the work-based list. Especially with these computer repair children, might be a place for them too. The ELC policy was being studied, and they had the staff assigned members up into different areas, various areas, so they could go over the ALC policy, and then they're going to present it to the Faculty Senate, the ALC, and the Ad Council. Now, I wasn't aware of whether they presented it to both counties or not, but I would assume that they do present it to both counties, so because the ALC is what they come down and take the students from both of those. The general discussion consists of 4 items. One was the academic support for the Career Center students from Calhoun. We weren't doing too well there. Mr. Cross said that he would go back and look at it again. And Mr. Stern discussed contacting various businesses for disposal of hazardous material that's in the environmental lab down there. It needs to be taken care of, and he's trying to find somebody that they can use. He also stated the complete review and update, if necessary, of the safety program down there. We discussed it for a little while about being out by ourselves and not having, you know, the contacts with the Sheriff's Department in different places because we're out a little ways, and he is going to do an update and study that safety thing and get back and see if it needs to be updated, if necessary. Now, if it's not necessary, he doesn't. And 4, he also gave a report on holiday press releases. Of course, most of you saw on the Free Press and the Democrat about the birdhouses at the first grade at Pleasant Hill that the construction students went to help them build. Also, that the occupational students, health students, visited Women's and Children's Hospital in Charleston, and they gave gifts to the pediatric ward and did touring of the hospital, and that trip was very successful. They thought it was a great way for the children to go. The Career Center staff is also preparing success stories of former students, and which might be an idea even for our county high school and others to know what our students are doing. And some of them may be doing great things, we just don't know. But they're going to do a success story release, and I'm hoping to get some of those stories for you all so we'll know what those children are doing. When we had the one meeting down there that Mr. Armour's with, they gave some of the success stories there, a few of them there that one lady did, which is really nice to hear from. The meeting next meeting was called for January 22nd, 11 o'clock. I wish you all feel free to come down at 11 that day, and the press too, if you'd like to, and sit in on the meetings and visit the school, because it is an excellent school. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 5, trip requests.
We have none this evening.
All right. Item 6, consent agenda. Mr. Blankenship, anything there?
No, unless there's any questions.
I had some questions on the accounts payable. On the bowls and rice on page 1 was $10,662. I'd like to know if that is the Miller Anderson case sum or is it a policy work?
I believe that's policy work, but I'll check to make sure.
All right, I still want to know how much that case was, and the state requested a lawyer fee, plus what the findings of the case was. After all, I was sued, and I'd like to know what those findings are. Because they did put it in the OEPA report that we, knocked us on that one thing, and I think now they can take it back and say we were right and they were wrong. On page 1 also, this was just a question for me. It says Pearson Clinical Assessment, $7,000. The only Pearson I can think of is Dr. Pearson, who is a kidney specialist. So do you have any idea what that is?
That was for math. That's kits and software for to teach math.
Kits and software?
Math assessment forms.
Okay, that's the
kits.
first time I've seen that one too. Also on page 1, two is Pomeroy Resource, Pomeroy Computer Resource, $9,900.
Page
Is-
2.
Let's stay on page one, we're still on page one. I want to know if that's a state bid, is that a state bid, was this bid out? Who's the shareholders? I read the Gazette too. I'd like to know who that is because I couldn't find them. Later, with help, I found that the only thing I could find there was Pomeroy IT Solution Sales Company. The
They-
name was
they hold
changed from
the,
Pomeroy Computers in 1999.
They hold the state bid.
Is that the same one?
Mhm.
Why are we still sending checks to an old name from 1999?
But they're still using that name. And that's what, they're still using that name, and that's what we buy off
Well,
the
it
state
didn't say
contract.
that in the state directory, that's why I couldn't find.
Mhm.
The other one is that Cyco, or Cisco Pittsburgh, and I think it's a food company. Are they
Yeah.
a state vendor too?
That's child nutrition, yes.
All right, it's 21,140. On page 4, now this is the 5th sheet back. Just a question. It says Gilmer County Board of Education, $450. Why are we paying ourselves and what for?
What page is that on?
It's on 5th page back. Just count the pages back. It says Gilmer County Board of Education, $450, and then on description it says $450, Gilmer County Board of Education. I just wondered why we were paying ourselves.
I don't have it, that's page 1.
It's the
Mine.
5th page back,
That's on 5th page back.
and it should be on there. If you're on the right page.
Hope Fleming, Hardman, Johnston, McMaster Carr, State Electric, and Tri-State.
Because I even numbered my sheets, the way they were in order.
I see one on the 4th page and stuff.
Okay.
Is it $450?
$450,
On
that's
page
it.
4
Mhm.
there.
The 4th page back.
Yeah, it's the 4th page back on mine.
Yeah, it's the fifth one back on.
And it's the 5th one on yours.
Probably got a page in
Yeah.
between that shouldn't be there.
Oh, that's Normantown referees.
Written to Gilmer County Board of Education?
Yes, for referees. They use it as a clearing account.
All right, on the same page 1, or that page 4, if you're saying that, I'd just like to know who Hartman Financial is 12. Is that an insurance company?
Is that the same page?
If it's this, the
Yes.
same page.
It's the second one from the bottom.
Who is Hartman?
That's who they work